Hi there, folks. Saber4 here with a guide for Legends of the Force. This is for Star Wars Unlimited, and we're going to talk about how to win your pre-release. These events are coming up soon as we kind of wind down everything with Set 4 and are very rapidly approaching the release of Set 5. So this is kind of how to think about some of the things that we've got. There's a couple of guides up already where I'm talking about leaders and talking about the rare and legendary cards of this set. This kind of takes a lot of that into account, and we'll go from there. First off, before we begin, we're right about 950 subs. Loving the growth of the channel. Would love for you to be a part of it. If you have not subscribed already, please do so. In this video, we'll talk about the rules of a pre-release and what's different between sealed and limited play. We'll talk a little bit about what is in a pack, because understanding the math of that is very helpful, and what the update is for Legends of the Force. We'll talk about choosing a leader, and it's that free unit that is the central component of kind of how you build. We'll talk about the different components of building a deck. I'll give you a few testing pearls and a couple of stories about being lucky. So let's go ahead and dive on in. Rules of a pre-release and how are they different? The event type, if we are looking at we're looking at limited. If we're looking at regular constructed play, you are limited to 3 copies of a card per deck, with one notable exception. Sealed play and draft play are unlimited. As many of them as you have open in front of you, you can play them. The card pool in limited is the full rotation, and in sealed it is the provided packs. In draft it is the provided packs. There is no required disclosure in sealed, although in draft everybody will see what's coming by them. Leader selection, everything is available to you from the packs. And in sealed play, so in pre-release events, you will get the 2 highlight leaders, Darth Maul and Qui-Gon Jinn, plus whatever comes in your 6 packs. In draft, you'll only get the 3 that are drafted. And the deck minimum size in a sealed event or a draft event is going to be 30 cards. In a lot of cases, you'll want to build as close to that 30 as you possibly can. What's in a pack? We very well know the rarity breakdown and what you're going to see. 1 leader, 1 base, roughly 9 commons, roughly 3 uncommons, 1 rare slot, and 1 foil. The variability here is that the foil can be of any rarity, and the rare spot has a 1 in 5 shot of being a legendary. There are 2 places where hyperspace can appear. Your hyperspace can replace one of the uncommons and can be a rare or legendary. And so you do have a little bit of variability built into that card pool. What that means for your average card pool is that you're going to have between 5 and 8 leaders to choose from. You're going to have 52 to 54 uncommons, or 52 to 54 commons, 16 to 20 uncommons, 5 to 7 rares, probably at least 1 legendary, and then 6 foil cards that are completely wild cards. What's different about this set is that we have 2 leaders without a second aspect. And rather than build back and have 2 extra leaders in 2 different aspects, what we have this time is we have Anakin and we have Darth Revan, and those 2 come in heroism and villainy only. And so those highlighted leaders fill in a heroism spot in yellow and a villainy spot in red. So you're not going to pull 2 different red villainy leaders. You're just going to pull 1 and have 1 as your highlight. So that's what's coming in your packs. The reason that's important is because of the volume of what you're going to see, and you're going to be playing with mostly commons and uncommons. We'll talk about that in just a minute. What you do need to do and look for when you're choosing a leader is to understand that you are most likely to see the common leaders. And so understanding how these 8 leaders work, plus perhaps the 2 that are your highlight leaders, is a very important step, because you're most likely to get Mother Talzin, Ahsoka Tano in blue. In green, you're likely to see Supreme Leader Snoke and Obi-Wan Kenobi. In red, Third Sister and Kit Fisto. And in yellow, Grand Inquisitor and Cal Kestis. The others are just, they're rares, and they're going to be kind of hit and miss. Thankfully, Anakin and Revan are also rares because they are an incredibly difficult thing to build around when we're talking about sealed play. Steps for choosing a leader. Number one, understanding what you're talking about. When you're sitting down doing it, the first thing you're going to want to do is to sort your cards. You need to determine what kind of play pools you have. When I'm sitting down to do this, I sort each aspect and I sort it by side, so that I have a pile sitting in front of me that is blue heroism, blue villainy, blue neutral. Repeat for green, repeat for red, repeat for yellow. And that gives me an understanding of what my play pools are, just kind of at a glance when I'm trying to put things together. As I determine what play pools are kind of big enough for me to mess with, I'm going to sort them a second time, and I'm going to put them in order by cost and separate out so that I see what units are available to me. That's part of step 2, evaluating those play pools. What gives you the deepest set to build with? And which of those build sets have enough early plays? In a 50 card deck, we often want to run somewhere between, if we're trying to make sure that we have a turn 1 play, we're trying to run somewhere between 12 and 13 1 or 2 cost cards. In a 30 card deck, we can cut that down a little bit, and we will cut that down a little bit by necessity. But we want to try and have 6 to 8 if we can. That's ideal, but it's not always going to happen. Sometimes your card pool just won't allow it. But we do want to make sure that we have a card pool, if we're looking between two somewhat otherwise equals, a card pool that allows me to put something on the board early enough, because falling behind in these games can be very, very detrimental. You're going to have don't have a lot of things where you're going to have events that really swing the game very often. And so you're going to have a lot of unit bashing. That said, being able to do that unit bashing requires units. So you're going to need to be able to put something on the board. Since you can choose any base, which leader has the best complementary pool, and then whatever complementary pool it is that you need. If you did not pull that base, they are supposed to provide it for you. And somebody's card pool will probably have enough to hand you the base that you need. That does not include rare bases. Those are only available to you if you pull them from your pack. And in sealed play, good grief, I always hope that I don't. All right. Let's talk about some commons for a minute. Roughly 3 times as many common as uncommon, roughly 9 times as many as rares. And if you have 6 rares, the likelihood that all 6 of them are going to find your color palette is incredibly low. So as such, your commons are real staples of your deck. They are also most likely to be your turn 1 plays, because they tend to be on the commons in this game tend to be on the less complex side of things, which often puts them on the cheaper end of the curve. Don't miss a turn 1 play in sealed for lack of putting these options in your deck. And you want to have something that can help beyond just the rote numbers that are on it. I put these here as examples, and I'll talk my way through them just briefly. The Secretive Sage. This is a 2/2 shielded that has the Force trait, so he's going to be able to survive most anything in turn 1 and go ahead and get you a Force token, which is going to be very important for how a lot of these decks work. The Jedi Consular here can gain a Force token, but he also is a resource cheat, which is gigantic in these decks. Acolyte of the Beyond doesn't have the Force trait itself, but is going to give you a Force token both on attack and when defeated. This N1 Starfighter is just large for its cost in space, and here the Vulpex, the Vulptex is a nice hidden unit that can be put down and give you the same kind of stats as that Starfighter. These are all good turn 1 plays. There's plenty more. Make sure that you are conscious and aware of what those plays are as you are figuring out the bottom end of your curve. Uncommons. Uncommons are going to carry a lot of your synergy. They are going to be the things that kind of match up to your leader in a lot of cases, but that's a card pool choice. And in some cases, they're going to be just the cards that have the bigger numbers. You'll want to choose between similar leader options, and when you do, look carefully to see if you have two similar pools. Find out where your synergy fits best, because being able to run that efficiently is going to be something that really helps out with your power curve. Um, these are the primary power cards of the deck. Because your rares are so limited, there's only going to be a half dozen of them, and like we said, they're not all going to be in your color palette. And so this is going to be where you swing games. Finally, rare cards. Rare and legendary and sealed have absolutely game-changing power. Sometimes these things are worth adding even if they are out of aspect. And I gave you a couple of examples of kind of how that can happen. But do not be so locked into these cards that you miss a better play line. Um, the reason I've got these three here, uh, Burden of Masters. Put a force card from your discard pile on the bottom of your deck. If you do, play a unit from your hand and give 2 experience tokens to it. Um, that, although you are winding up, you still have to pay the cost of the unit that you deploy. If you're in green, that's fantastic. If you're not in green and the and you still have a lot of little units, which you might, this can make one of those little units still powerful enough that it can really get the job done. And so something like this could be a consideration if you're struggling on card number 28, 29, 30. Liberated by Darkness. Um, the idea that you're playing a very powerful card. Recently, we've seen Choose Sides be used a lot. We also saw from set 1 a similar ability to be able to say that we're going to take control of a non-leader unit. At the start of the regroup phase, we give it back. But often we're going to use that unit to bash into something of theirs so that we effectively 2-for-1 them. Because I can use Liberated by Darkness, take a unit, swing it into one of theirs, blow them both away, and hey, look, I've traded 2 cards for 1. Paz Vizsla, you're not going to play double red. You're just not. But you might still play this guy for 7, depending on where your cost curve goes. Because as a 3/6 that gets double grit, he really has the ability to be a big unit in the late game. And sometimes having that big unit in the late game, something that you can play at a 6 or 7 in your curve, is going to be very powerful, even if you are overpaying for it a little bit based on its raw stats. A couple of testing pearls. Rare leaders in this set almost routinely underperform, with the exception of Kanan. With Kanan, because of the space whales and the availability of a lot of the different things like the porgs and other smaller units that are out there in no aspect in particular, you have a lot of availability to have 3 creatures, 4 creatures plus Ezra in your deck. And as a result, if you pull Kanan and you manage to get Ezra as well, or Ezra or 4 creatures, this is a very powerful leader to deal with, because he's going to come out 5/8 shielded almost routinely. And that's a real power play for your leader. Major value in some of these other units, and I'll go through them just briefly, although I didn't put pictures up. The Sun, playing at 7, and if you are playing in this set, the chances that you're going to have a force token are high. He gives +2/+0 to everything on your board while there's a force token. And that very, very drastically changes the math of how you're going to be able to finish off games. Axe Wolves, there are a lot of different ways to go ahead and put an upgrade on things here. Axe Wolves is a vigilance only card who gains +1/+1 for each upgrade on him. And he also comes out shielded, so he comes out with that +1/+1, and then can gain that again as you put upgrades to him. The Sand Trooper Cavalry, not a great attack for its 4 cost, but it's got grit and a big butt. So the opportunity to, again, put something on it, put an upgrade on it, put an experience token, something like that to it, have it take a couple of damage, have it be a big unit in these games is quite good. The Youngling Padawan has overperformed, especially, one of the ways that I see this overperform at a very consistent clip is if you are playing Obi-Wan and pairing it with yellow. This allows you to immediately gain your token and then use that token to make Youngling Padawan bigger. And that makes it one of the largest 2 drops that you can have, and really turns things on for you early. There's going to be a half dozen different ways that people pronounce this. I'm going to say it's the Tarentatech. Um, huge performer. There are a ton of force units in this particular set. The likelihood that your opponent is going to be playing without one is very limited. And being able to come in with a 5/5 ambusher for 5, that's not a super common thing in this particular set. There are other cards with ambush, but this one being able to come in and clear out a large number of different force units is quite powerful. Watto, don't sleep here. Watto is a very powerful card in this at 3. Yes, he's a 1/6, but drawing your cards is a big problem for your opponents. If you are able to get through most of that 30 cards just by attacking with Watto, they're going to have a lot of problems beating you. If they allow Watto to continue giving experience tokens to things, they are going to have a lot of problems beating you. Watto is a very solid play, especially here in Sealed. And so really it's about understanding your card pool, knowing what to expect from it, and then building a deck that suits you well. But then keeping in mind that several of these things that you're looking at when you evaluate limited play have a huge difference in their value when you don't have the ability to put 3 of your answers for a particular card in a deck. When you don't have the ability to look back and pick up, I need these 5 cards out of Twilight, these 6 that came in set 4, these 4 that came in Spark of Rebellion. When you don't have the ability to do that, and we're building entirely out of a sealed pool, some of these cards have a much greater value than how we might evaluate them otherwise. Last thing to do, be lucky. 2 past pre-releases and kind of their stories. In Shadows, I played a pre-release. I got 3 dead card pools. Just absolutely dead card pools on my villainy side. Just didn't have that heavy of a villainy presence, and there was not a very big presence in single aspect, single color. That led to me playing Ray Red because I got 3 of Ray. And so I was completely stuck as far as my hero leaders went. And my best option was to play Ray. That meant that what you're seeing there, the Clone Deserter out of aspect, was my best 3-drop. I had 3 of it. That was the best 3-drop that I had, and not by a small margin. Of course, being Ray, she's able to put an experience token to it. She's able to make this thing a little bit bigger. It's got Restore. It's a fantastic play to have had. Played it completely out of aspect. Placed second in that one. The guy that won it had Gar Saxon and drew a Dark Saber. So, be lucky. Number 2, in this last set here in set 4, Poe to Boba flip. So I sat down, looked at my cards, evaluated my pools, put everything together, had a really nice set of red, had a really decent set of heroism. Clipping through, everything looks right. Had separated out and kind of set aside the different villainy stuff that was there. I'm really not going to play it. It's not going to do for me what I need it to do. But I did have kind of the best things possible in red. I had a couple of the War Juggernauts. I had several nice big things to kind of spit some damage across the board. And Poe was the right call. Plenty of vehicles. It's the way Jump to Light Speed worked. Here's a good leader for it. had the deck ready to kind of cover up and go. And in the last minute, looked back through my set, made sure that this is the path that I wanted, um, and saw these together. That I have a TIE bomber. Twin laser turret was a part of what I was putting together in red anyway, and I had hotshot maneuver. Yeah, 2 different games I managed to put down TIE bomber pretty early because I had a pair of them. Uh, in one of those games, I put it down with a twin laser turret. In the other game, I put it down with a pilot, and was able to start attacking with the TIE bomber, dealing my indirect damage, dealing extra indirect damage with Boba, and also actually dealing damage from the bomber. It's a huge unit because it's a 4, and so it's going to take a couple of fighters swinging into it to do anything. Um, and then in its finals, I got a TIE bomber out on turn 1, and I was able to slap a twin laser turret on it on turn 2, swing in for 2, shoot one of the ships that was in space, deal a massive amount of indirect damage because Boba clipped, the twin laser turret clipped, everything got soaked, and you were just off to the races. By the time that my opponent kind of recovered, I slapped down hotshot maneuver. And hey, look, I've got 2 on attack abilities. Here's 2 damage to one thing. Here's 2 damage to another thing. And now we'll attack with my TIE bomber, ping 2 damage more, or ping 1 damage more to each of those ships. There's nothing left to soak up the indirect except the base. whole lot of oops. And wound up being a very, very powerful game with Boba on a late flip because I was smart enough to have looked through, put all of my stuff together, evaluated everything, but I was lucky enough to recognize this late and to get these hits in a couple of games that I was there playing. So that's what we have for right now. We'll come back in a couple of days. We'll look at some of the best commons and uncommons from this set. I do encourage you, if you have not, to take a look at the evaluations of the leaders, rares, and legendaries, and then, go out there and win your pre-release. We'll see you guys next time.